The night Henry Langford died, he wasn't surrounded by private doctors. He wasn't lying beneath silk sheets in a hospital room with machines breathing for him. He was sitting on a wooden crate behind Maya's soup cart, rain dripping from the brim of his old hat, his hands wrapped around a bowl of soup he no longer had the strength to lift. To Maya, he was only the quiet old man who came every evening with dust on his coat and coins folded carefully inside a handkerchief. So when his hands began to shake, she sat beside him. She blew gently on each spoonful, cooled it with her breath, and fed him like he was family. Henry watched her through tired eyes. Then, with the last of his strength, he pressed a sealed envelope into her palm. "If you ever meet Adrian," he whispered, "tell him I never abandoned him." Maya didn't understand. Not when she found the old photograph in his wallet, a younger Henry standing beside a boy who looked too serious for his age, with Langford Tower rising behind them. And not even when, 1 year later, she finally saw that same boy again. Now a man. Now Adrian Langford. He stood at the entrance of Langford Tower in a tailored black suit, watching as two security guards dragged Maya's soup cart away from the sidewalk. Her pots crashed against the pavement. Hot soup spilled into the gutter. Maya stared at him, her fingers tightening around the envelope Henry had left behind. She recognized him immediately, but Adrian didn't recognize her. She hadn't come to beg. She had come to keep a dead man's promise. To him, she was just another stain on the perfect image of his empire. He had no idea the woman he was throwing away was carrying the last truth his father ever left behind. The soup spread across the curb in a thin golden stream. Steam rose from the gutter, carrying the smell of chicken bones, garlic, and ginger into the cold morning air outside Langford Tower. Maya dropped to her knees and grabbed the bent handle of her ladle before it slid into the drain. "Please,"
I told you
she
I will
said,
pay you
"don't pull
tomorrow.
it like that.
Let go of
The
my
brake is
cart."
loose." One guard held the cart. The other stood close enough to remind her that he could touch her if he chose. "Ma'am, you were warned to clear the sidewalk. This is a public sidewalk. Not today." Behind Maya, 8-year-old Leo stood with his backpack pressed against his chest. Maya could bear being humiliated. She could not bear him learning what humiliation looked like on her. At the top of the steps, Adrian Langford did not laugh. That almost made him look colder. Behind him, a shining model of the East Harbor Renewal Project sat under white lights. Silver towers, a hotel, a luxury arcade, and clean little trees. No soup cart, no old print shop, no cheap apartments, no corner where Henry had once sat in the rain with both hands around a paper bowl. Adrian looked at the PR director beside him. This entrance was supposed to be cleared before the presentation. "We issued notices yesterday," she said. "All unlicensed vendors were told to relocate." "I have a permit," Maya said. She pulled a folded paper from the side pocket of the cart. Before the PR director could answer, an older man in a navy overcoat stepped out of the lobby and took it. Maya did not know Richard Langford yet, but she noticed how everyone shifted when he arrived. Even Adrian went still, as if obeying an old habit. Richard studied the paper with a gentle smile. "This area is under special event restriction today," he said. "Investor access. Safety compliance." "I didn't come to sell today," Maya said. Adrian looked at her then. For one breath, Maya forgot the guards, the investors, even Leo's small hand clutching her coat. The man on the steps was the boy from Henry's photograph. Older, sharper, richer, but unmistakably the same. She reached inside her coat. Richard's eyes dropped to her hand. "What did you come for?" Adrian asked. Maya took out the sealed envelope. It was creased from a year of hiding. The ink had faded, but the name was still clear. Adrian Langford. Written in Henry's trembling hand. "I came because your father asked me to find you." The words struck the air harder than the fallen pot. Adrian's face changed. First confusion, then pain, then anger, closing over both. Richard moved one step closer. "Miss Maya Reyes." "Miss Reyes," Richard said softly. "Mr. Langford receives many claims involving his father. It is an unfortunate consequence of public grief." "This isn't a claim. Then what is it?" "A promise." A few phones lifted near the entrance. Inside the lobby, the miniature East Harbor waited under perfect white light, already clean of the people who lived there. Adrian came down one step. "My father has been dead for a year," he said. "I know. You knew him?" Maya nodded. "He came to my cart almost every night near the end. He was sick. He didn't tell me who he was." Richard sighed. It sounded rehearsed. "Adrian, he said. "This has happened before. Your father was not well in his final years. He misplaced
I assure
things.
you, madam,
He trusted strangers
the
too
settlement is
easily."
final and
Maya
more
looked
than
at him.
fair.
The lie was not in the
It's
words.
a lie.
It was in how ready he was to say them. She turned back to Adrian. "He told me to tell you he never abandoned you." For the first time, Adrian looked truly shaken. Then he shut it away. "Enough." One guard stepped toward Maya. Leo rushed forward. "Mom, don't let them take Mr. Henry's letter." Adrian's eyes flicked to the boy. So did Richard's. In that brief second, the envelope slipped from Maya's fingers and fell onto the wet pavement. It landed face up. Adrian saw his name. He also saw the old Langford crest pressed into the wax seal, not the silver logo above the lobby doors, but the original crest from the company's first office. Richard bent for it. Maya snatched it first. Her fingers closed around the envelope, and Richard's kind face tightened for less than a second. Adrian saw it. Or maybe he only felt it. Richard struck. "Your legal department didn't feed him," Maya said. No one answered. The guards pulled the cart again. The loose wheel twisted. Paper bowls scattered across the pavement. Leo bent to pick them up, but Maya caught his shoulder. "Leave them." She looked once more at Adrian. "I didn't come here for money. I came because your father didn't want his last words buried with him." Something flickered in Adrian's face. Then an investor cleared his throat. The glass doors opened behind him. The model of East Harbor waited inside, bright and clean. Adrian stepped back. "Clear the entrance," he said. Maya took Leo's hand and walked toward the curb while the guards dragged what was left of her cart behind them. Soup stained her apron. The envelope pressed against her ribs like a second heartbeat. At the bus stop,
Is everything
Leo
okay?
looked up at her. "Mom," he asked. Why didn't he want to hear about Mr. Henry? Maya looked back at Langford Tower. Through the glass, she saw Richard leaning close to Adrian. But Adrian was not looking at the investors anymore. He was looking at the wet mark on the pavement where the envelope had fallen. Maya tightened her coat around the letter. "Because some people are more afraid of the truth than they are of losing someone," she said. But even as she said it, she knew the truth was no longer safe with her. Someone inside that tower had recognized the envelope. And whoever it was, they had been waiting for Henry's last words to disappear. By noon, East Harbor had returned to its ordinary noise. Buses sighed at the curb. A delivery truck blocked half the street. Steam rose from the laundromat vents. At Rose's Print and Copy, the old sign flickered even though the shop had been open for hours. Across from it, a narrow pharmacy sold cough syrup, bus passes, and batteries from the same glass counter. To the city planning office, East Harbor was parcel block E. To Langford Group, it was Phase 1. To Maya, it was where Mrs. Alvarez left soup money in exact coins every Thursday, where taxi drivers came after midnight with stiff shoulders, where Leo had learned to count by stacking paper bowls. It was also where Henry Langford had spent his last winter, pretending not to be cold. That afternoon, Maya pushed her damaged cart through the alley behind the laundromat. One wheel scraped every few feet. The brake hung loose. One pot had a dent so deep the lid no longer closed. Leo walked beside her without speaking. That silence worried her more than questions. At their building, a notice was taped beside the mailboxes. East Harbor Renewal Tenant Relocation Information Session. Below it, in smaller print, was a code Maya had seen on almost every door that month. EHR1, Parcel Consolidation Review. She had never understood those words. They sounded clean, official, too clean for what they were doing. Inside their apartment, she placed Henry's envelope in the back of the kitchen drawer, under Leo's school forms and a bag of rice. Then she opened the dented metal tin where she kept the things Henry had left behind. A brown button, a medicine bottle, a folded receipt from Rose's shop, a small notebook with a cracked black cover. Leo reached for the button first. Mr. Henry said this was important. Maya sat beside him. Henry had given it to Leo on a rainy night when one cuff of his coat came loose. His fingers had trembled so badly he could not thread the needle. Leo had tried to help, pushing the thread through the air again and again until Henry smiled. "A button is like a promise," Henry had told him. "Small, but when it's gone, nothing closes right." At the time, Maya thought it was only an old man making a child laugh. Now, after seeing Richard's face when the envelope fell, she was no longer sure any small thing Henry left behind was small. She picked up the medicine bottle. The label was faded, but one line remained clear. Street Bartholomew Cardiac Institute, private wing. Maya frowned. Henry had told her he did not have a doctor. He had said it lightly, as if doctors belonged to another life. But the private wing of Street Bartholomew was not for men who slept under awnings. It was where rich families sent people when they wanted illness handled quietly. The notebook gave her a deeper chill. It was not a diary. It had names: Mrs. Rosa Medina Print Shop, Calvin Price Night Taxi, Alvarez Family Upstairs Pharmacy Building, Old Harbor Shelter Kitchen Entrance, Maya Reyes Soup Cart, West Corner. Beside some names, Henry had written numbers. Beside others, short phrases. Rent controlled. No relocation letter. Asked twice. Afraid to sign. Parcel unclear. Check annex. Maya turned the pages slowly. Henry had not been wandering through East Harbor because he had nowhere else to go. He had been mapping it. Across the city, on the 42nd floor of Langford Tower, Adrian stood before a wall-sized screen while his development team presented the same neighborhood in cleaner colors. East Harbor appeared as pale blue blocks and projected revenue lines. The hotel alone would cover nearly a third of Langford Group's debt exposure. The luxury arcade had already attracted 2 international retail tenants. The residential towers were marked with pre-sale values that made several investors smile. Adrian did not smile. He stared at parcel EH-17, a narrow strip behind the old print shop and 3 apartment buildings. It was too small to matter visually, but the legal status beside it read, "Pending consolidation." "Why is EH-17 still pending?" he asked. The room quieted. A project manager clicked to the next slide too quickly. "Minor title cleanup," the man said. "Nothing material." Adrian looked at Richard, who sat near the end of the table, hands folded over a leather folder. Richard smiled with calm patience. "Your father created several charitable use complications in that district years ago," Richard said. "Verbal promises, poorly documented community agreements, that sort of thing. We have been cleaning them up." There it was again. Your father. Not Henry, not my brother, not the founder. Always your father, placed carefully where it would hurt. Adrian looked back at the screen. But for a moment he saw a wet envelope on pavement. His own name written in a shaking hand. A woman's voice saying, "He told me to tell you he never abandoned you." He hated how much he wanted to believe it. He hated more that he had spent years training himself not to. The family story had been simple. Henry Langford had grown unstable after Adrian's mother died. He had withdrawn from the company, emptied money into strange neighborhood projects, accused loyal people of betrayal, then disappeared by choice. Richard had found him too late. Sick, confused, surrounded by strangers. That version explained the silence. The unanswered birthdays, the missing calls, the years of believing his father had chosen broken streets and nameless people over his own son. Richard had been the one who stayed. Richard had signed school forms, sat through Adrian's first board vote, and told him that love sometimes meant cleaning up someone else's mess. Now, a woman with a damaged soup cart had put a crack in that story. Adrian closed the presentation. The black screen startled the room. "Send me the full title history for EH-17, he said. The project manager hesitated. "Legal has that file. I didn't ask who has it. I asked for it." Richard's smile held. "Of course," he said. "I'll have my office prepare a summary." "No," Adrian said. "The full file." For the first time that day, Richard did not answer immediately. The pause lasted less than a second, but Adrian felt it. Back in East Harbor, Maya found one more thing inside Henry's notebook, a torn corner of printed paper tucked into the back cover. At the top were 3 words in blue ink: Community Benefit Annex. Below that, half a sentence remained. No forced displacement shall occur on parcels originally transferred under. The rest had been ripped away. Maya read the fragment twice. She did not know legal language. She did not know title consolidation. But she understood one thing. Someone had once written protection for East Harbor into a document, and someone else had torn that protection out. Leo leaned against her arm. "Is it about Mr. Henry?" Maya looked at the envelope hidden in the drawer. Then at the relocation notice downstairs. Then at the notebook full of names Henry had written as if each one mattered. "Yes," she said quietly, "but I don't think it's only about him anymore." That evening, Langford Tower glowed above the city as if nothing under it could touch it. In East Harbor, Maya taped a cardboard sign to the side of her damaged cart. Closed today. Back tomorrow. She had no idea how she would pay for a repaired wheel, new bowls, or another morning of being watched by guards. But she knew one thing now. Henry Langford had not spent his final months lost. He had been looking for something. And if Richard was afraid of a sealed envelope, then whatever Henry found was still dangerous enough to bury. The next morning, Maya did not bring the soup cart. She wore the same brown coat, now scrubbed clean at the hem. The sealed envelope lay inside the lining, flat against her ribs. In a cloth bag, she carried 3 things Henry had left behind: the medicine bottle, the cracked black notebook, and the folded receipt from Rosa's print and copy. Leo had wanted to come. Maya told him no. A child should not have to stand before men in suits and prove that a dead man had mattered. At Langford Tower, the sidewalk had already been washed. No stain remained where the soup had spilled. The glass doors shone as if the building itself had decided yesterday had never happened. Maya stopped outside for one breath. Then she remembered Henry's hand closing around hers in the rain, and walked in. The guard recognized her. No vendors inside. I'm not here to sell. You need an appointment. I need 5 minutes with Adrian Langford. The guard gave a tired smile. So does half the city. Maya looked past him to the portrait of Henry on the far wall. In the painting, he wore a dark suit, one hand resting on a leather chair, the first Langford crest beside his name. But Maya noticed his sleeve. One cuff sat slightly uneven, showing a brown button like the one Leo kept in the tin. He hated that, she murmured. The guard frowned. What? When his sleeves sat wrong, he used to say rich men paid too much for suits that still needed a poor person's needle. A young woman passing behind the desk stopped. Her badge read, Claire Benton, Executive Office. What did you say? Maya turned. I knew Henry Langford. Claire's face tightened with caution. A lot of people say that. Did a lot of people know he folded coins inside a handkerchief before paying? That he never spent the last coin because a man should always keep one coin for tomorrow? Claire went still. Years earlier, while archiving old founder materials, she had seen that same sentence written inside one of Henry's private notebooks. She had never heard anyone else say it aloud. Wait here, Claire said. The guard started to object. Claire looked at him once. He stopped. 10 minutes later, Maya sat in a small conference room on the 38th floor. It had no windows, only a long table, 6 leather chairs, and a silence that felt expensive. Adrian entered first. Richard followed. Maya noticed that immediately. Adrian did not sit. His eyes moved from her coat to the cloth bag, then to the hand she kept near her ribs. You asked for 5 minutes, he said. I did. You have them. Richard sat down as if the meeting belonged to him. Claire remained near the door. Maya placed the cloth bag on the table but did not touch the envelope. Adrian's voice was controlled. You said my father came to your cart. Yes. When? Most evenings during his last 3 months. My father was under medical supervision. Maya took out the medicine bottle and set it on the table. Adrian looked at the label. Street Bartholomew Cardiac Institute, private wing. His expression changed before he could hide it. Richard reached for the bottle, but Adrian picked it up first. Where did you get this? From his coat pocket after he died. I kept it because I thought someone might come looking for him. No one did? No. The answer sat between them. Richard leaned back. Henry often refused care. He wandered. He lost things. Maya opened the notebook. He didn't wander. She turned it toward Adrian. He wrote names. Adrian looked down. Mrs. Rosa Medina Print Shop. Calvin Price Night Taxi. Alvarez Family Upstairs Pharmacy Building. Old Harbor Shelter Kitchen Entrance. Maya Reyes Soup Cart, West Corner. Beside the names were short notes. Rent controlled. No relocation letter. Parcel unclear. Check annex. Maya tapped one line. He asked about this building 3 times, she said. The pharmacy, above Mrs. Alvarez. He wanted to know who had signed relocation papers. I thought he was lonely. Now I think he was checking something. Richard's voice cooled. Or he was confused. Confused men don't remember who works nights at the fish market and who has a sick husband upstairs. Claire lowered her eyes. Adrian's hand remained on the medicine bottle. Maya reached into the bag again and took out Rosa's receipt. He went to the print shop the week before he died, she said. He came back wet and scared. That was the only night he didn't eat. Adrian stared at the paper. The ink was faded, but the date and time remained. Near the bottom was one service line. Document copy legal size, blue paper. For the first time, Richard stopped smiling. Only for a second. Maya saw it. Miss Reyes, Richard said, if you truly want to help Adrian, you should give all of this to our legal department. We can authenticate it properly. No. Adrian looked up. No? Your legal department reports to him. Maya nodded toward Richard. And yesterday, when my envelope fell, he reached for it before you did. Richard gave a quiet laugh. A natural response to a private family matter. Henry didn't give it to your family, Maya said. He gave it to me for Adrian. The room went still. Adrian set the bottle down carefully. For the first time, he was not looking at Maya as a disturbance from the sidewalk. He was looking at her as someone who might have seen his father more clearly than he had. What is in the envelope? He asked. I don't know. You never opened it? It wasn't addressed to me. Something passed across Adrian's face, not trust, not yet, but the beginning of respect. Richard stood. This has gone far enough. Adrian, grief makes people vulnerable. We cannot let a stranger walk in with unverified objects and rewrite family history. Maya gathered the notebook, but left the medicine bottle on the table. Then verify that, she said. Verify the prescription. Verify the receipt. Verify whether Henry was at Rosa's print and copy that night. Adrian looked at Claire. Do it. Richard turned sharply. Adrian. The bottle first, Adrian said. Then the receipt. Claire nodded and left before anyone could stop her. Maya slid the notebook back into her bag. Adrian's voice lowered. And the envelope? Maya touched the inside of her coat. When you're ready to hear him, she said. Not when they're ready to manage him. She walked out before Richard could answer. In the hallway, her knees nearly failed. But inside the conference room, Adrian did not return to his calls. He stood over the medicine bottle, staring at the label from a hospital wing his family had paid to build. For the first time in years, the story Richard had given him did not feel like history. It felt like a locked door, and Maya Reyes had just placed the first key on the table. The first time Henry Langford came to Maya's cart, he stood in the rain for almost 10 minutes before ordering. Not because the line was long. There was no line that night. Only a bus driver eating beside the curb and 2 factory workers warming their hands around paper cups. Henry stood beneath the torn awning of a closed tailor shop, watching the steam rise from Maya's pot as if he had forgotten how to approach ordinary hunger. You want chicken or lentil? Maya asked. He looked startled that she had spoken to him. Which one costs less? Tonight? She said. They cost the same. That is not what the board would recommend. Maya did not understand the joke, but his smile was so tired she gave him the fuller bowl. He paid with 3 coins folded inside a white handkerchief. Before handing them over, he counted them twice, then slipped 1 coin back into his coat pocket. You short? Maya asked. No, Henry said. Just cautious. From then on, he came most evenings. He never asked for charity. If Maya tried to add extra meat, he noticed. If she gave him bread without charging, he left the price of it under the salt jar the next night. He sat on the wooden crate behind the cart, always angled toward the street, as if waiting for someone who never arrived. At first, Maya thought he was another old man bruised by the city. East Harbor had many of them. Men who had once carried toolboxes, women who had once cleaned hotel rooms, people who could tell you the year every building changed hands but could not make anyone listen when their own rent doubled. Henry listened to them. That was what Maya remembered most. He listened as Mrs. Alvarez complained that the relocation letter had her apartment number wrong. He listened when Calvin, the taxi driver, said the old shelter kitchen would lose its back entrance if the alley was fenced. He listened when Rosa from the print shop muttered that city notices were written to make poor people feel stupid. Sometimes, when people left, Henry took out his black notebook. What are you writing? Maya asked once. Names, he said. For what? He closed the notebook gently. So they do not become numbers. Maya thought that was the kind of thing lonely old men said when they missed having a family. She did not know he had built one of the tallest towers in the city. She only knew that he coughed more when the fog rolled in, that his fingers turned pale before rain, and that he would rather go hungry than admit his chest hurt. Leo liked him before Maya trusted him. Children did that sometimes. They crossed distances adults built carefully. One Friday, Leo sat beside Henry with a torn sleeve on his school jacket. Maya was busy serving 3 night shift nurses, so Henry took the little sewing kit from her supply box and tried to mend it. His hands shook too badly. Leo took the needle from him. "You're doing it wrong," the boy said. "I have chaired meetings with men worth billions," Henry replied. "None of them frightened me as much as this needle." Leo laughed. That was when Henry became more than a customer. After that, he helped Leo with spelling words when the dinner rush was slow. He taught him how to fold napkins into little boats. Once, he showed him how to polish a scuffed shoe with the inside of a banana peel, then looked embarrassed when Maya stared at him. "My mother taught me that," he said. "You had a mother?" Leo asked. Henry looked at the boy, then laughed so suddenly he had to cough into his sleeve. "Yes," he said. "Even old ghosts begin somewhere." But there were nights when his warmth vanished. Once, a Langford construction truck rolled past the corner, its side printed with the slogan, "Renewing Tomorrow." Henry watched it until the taillights disappeared. Then he pushed his soup away. "You don't like their project?" Maya asked. "I don't like words that make removal sound like kindness." It was the first time Maya heard anger in his voice. A week later, she found him standing across from Langford Tower, soaked through, staring up at the building like a man looking at his own grave. "You know that place?" she asked. Henry did not answer for a long time. Finally, he said, "A building can keep your name and still lose your soul." Maya remembered that because it sounded too heavy for a stranger. That same month, an inspector came to her cart and told her one of her permit extensions had been flagged. If she could not pay the late renewal fee by Monday, she would lose her corner. Maya said nothing until he left. Then she turned away and wiped the counter too hard. Henry saw. "How much?" he asked. "Don't." "I asked how much. And I said don't." Maya closed the cash box. "I don't feed you so you can rescue me." Henry looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. He never mentioned it again. 3 days later, the permit office stamped her renewal as paid. No name. No note. Only a money order receipt with the sender line left blank. Maya suspected Henry, but when she confronted him, he only lifted his bowl and said, "The lentil is better today." She should have been angry. Instead, she understood the difference. He had not tried to buy her gratitude. He had protected the place where she stood, then given her the dignity of not having to thank him in public. That was why, on his final night, when his breath became thin and his hands could no longer hold the spoon, Maya did not ask who he had been. She already knew enough. He was a man who remembered names. A man who paid for bread he could barely chew. A man who kept one coin for a tomorrow he knew might not come. When he pressed the envelope into her hand, she almost refused it. "I'm not the right person," she whispered. Henry's eyes opened. "You are," he said. "Why?" "Because you fed me before you knew whether I was worth anything." Maya had no answer to that. Now, days after the confrontation at Langford Tower, she sat alone in her kitchen with the blank money order receipt in front of her. The sender line was empty, but the purchase location was printed at the bottom. A branch 2 blocks from Rosa's print and copy. The date matched the week Henry had gone there and come back afraid. Maya placed the receipt beside the torn fragment from the notebook. Community Benefit Annex. No forced displacement shall occur. She could almost hear Henry's voice again, low and tired behind the cart. Names, so they do not become numbers. For the first time, Maya understood what he had been asking of her. Not to save his memory, to finish what he could not. Claire called Maya 2 days later from a number Maya did not recognize. "I verified the prescription," Claire said. Maya stood behind her cart with one hand on the repaired handle. The wheel still leaned slightly, but it turned. A mechanic from the bus depot had fixed it for half price after hearing what happened outside Langford Tower. And it was real, Claire said. Private wing. Henry Langford was discharged from Street Bartholomew 3 months before he died. Maya looked down the street toward Rosa's print and copy. "That means he wasn't just wandering." "No," Claire said. "It means someone knew he was sick and still let the public story say he was unreachable." Maya heard the carefulness in her voice. "You're not calling from your office?" "No, and don't come to the tower today." "Why?" "Richard requested every document connected to your name. Permits, housing records, school forms for Leo, everything." Maya's fingers tightened around the phone. Claire lowered her voice. "Adrian wants to meet. Not at Langford. Somewhere Richard won't control the room." An hour later, Maya sat in the back booth of a diner near the bus terminal. Adrian arrived without an assistant, without a driver, and without the black overcoat that made him look like part of the tower. He still looked expensive. He just looked less protected. Maya did not stand. Adrian noticed. Good, she thought. He sat across from her and placed a folder on the table. The prescription is authentic, he said. So is the receipt from Rosa's shop. The copy machine log shows a legal-sized job on blue paper the night you said my father went there. Maya kept her face still, but the words moved through her like breath after being held too long. What did he copy? That file is missing. Missing from where? Langford Legal Archives. Maya looked toward the window. Buses passed with tired faces pressed to the glass. Henry wrote check annex in the notebook, she said. And I found a torn paper, community benefit annex. It said no forced displacement, then the rest was gone. Adrian's hand paused on the folder. Those words matter, he said. Do they matter enough to stop your project? He did not answer quickly. That was answer enough. Maya pushed back from the booth. Adrian reached for the folder. Wait. She stopped, but did not sit. I'm not here to defend the project, he said. No, you're here to understand how much truth you can afford. The sentence hit him harder than she expected. For a moment, the polished CEO disappeared, and a son looked back at her angry, ashamed, and afraid of what he might learn. I need proof, Adrian said. Then come with me. Rosa Medina's print shop smelled of toner, dust, and old paper warmed by tired machines. A brass bell rang when they entered. Rosa looked up from behind the counter, saw Maya, then saw Adrian, and her mouth became a hard line. No, she said. Maya blinked. Rosa. No Langford people in my shop. Adrian accepted that without protest. I'm not here to threaten you, he said. That's what Langford letters always say before the threatening part. Maya stepped between them. Rosa, Henry came here before he died. He copied something on blue legal paper. Rosa's eyes changed. She looked at the locked cabinet beneath the counter. I told him not to come back, she said quietly. He was wet through, shaking. Kept saying he needed one clean copy before Richard found the original. Adrian went still. Rosa looked at him then, really looked. You have his eyes, she said. Not his courage yet. The words struck the room. Adrian took them. Do you have the copy? He asked. No. He took it. But the machine keeps job records if the hard drive hasn't failed. Rosa led them to an old copier in the back room, beige, scratched, and humming like it resented being alive. She opened a panel with a key taped under the paper tray. Most people think old machines forget, she said. They don't. They just remember badly. She printed a service log. Rows of dates, times, page sizes, and job codes appeared in gray ink. Rosa pointed to one line. Legal size, blue stock, 2 copies, 9:42 p.m. Beside it was a file tag typed by hand. A17, Annex B. Adrian took a step closer. That parcel is still pending consolidation. Rosa gave a bitter laugh. Pending means someone with money has not finished swallowing it? Maya studied the line. Can this prove what was copied? Not the content, Rosa said, but it proves Henry copied something with that tag on that night. Adrian looked at Maya. You said he came back scared. He wouldn't eat, Maya said. He kept looking over his shoulder. Rosa opened another drawer and removed a small plastic sleeve. Inside was a receipt duplicate, thinner than the one Maya had kept. I saved this because Henry paid cash and asked for no customer name, but he wrote one thing on the back. She handed it to Adrian. In Henry's shaking hand were 4 words. Lawyers look in safes. Maya finished the sentence before she could stop herself. Not in kitchens. Adrian looked up. What? Maya remembered Henry standing behind her cart, slipping something into a sealed container of soup base while she served customers. She had thought he was hiding his handkerchief from the rain. My dry storage, she said. He put something in my dry storage. They hurried back to Maya's apartment. The old soup-base tins were stacked under the sink, most reused for rice, salt, or spare coins. Maya pulled them out one by one until she found the tin with a strip of blue paper taped under the lid. Inside was a folded copy, brittle at the edges. At the top, Community Benefit Annex East Harbor Charitable Transfer Parcels. Halfway down the first page, a clause had been circled in blue ink. No forced displacement shall occur on residential or small business parcels transferred under the original Langford Community Trust without a supermajority community consent record. Adrian read it once. Then again, the color left his face. Maya did not know every legal term, but she understood enough. If that's real, she said. Your project can't clear East Harbor the way you planned. Adrian looked at the paper as if it had become heavier than the whole tower. No, he said. If this is real, someone removed it from the trust file. Richard? Adrian did not answer. He did not have to. Downstairs, a car door closed. Maya moved to the window. A black sedan idled across the street. Adrian saw it too. For the first time since she had met him, Maya heard fear in his voice. Who else knows you kept these tins? No one, she said. Then she remembered Henry's final week. The night he had come back from Rosa's shop. The way he had looked at every passing car. No forced displacement. Names. So they do not become numbers. Maya folded the annex carefully and held it against her chest. The secret was no longer just a letter from a father to a son. It was a map of who stood to lose everything. And someone had followed them home. The black sedan was gone by morning. That should have comforted Maya. It did not. On the door of her apartment building, a new notice had been taped over the relocation flyer. This one had her name on it. Maya Reyes, mobile food vendor license under review. Below it were 3 violations she had never seen before. Obstruction of investor access, improper food equipment storage, unauthorized commercial presence within a restricted development zone. The language looked clean enough to belong on a courthouse wall. The meaning was simple. They were trying to remove her without touching her. Mrs. Alvarez found her reading it in the hallway. Can they do that? Maya folded the notice. They just did. By noon, 2 city inspectors stood beside her cart with clipboards. One measured the distance from her wheel to the curb. The other photographed the dented pot as if it were evidence from a crime scene. You passed me last month, Maya said. Additional complaint, one inspector replied. From who? Anonymous. Across the street, a man in a gray coat watched beside a parked car. When Maya looked at him, he turned away. The inspectors placed a yellow suspension tag on her cart handle. Temporary cease of operation pending review. The lunch crowd slowed. Calvin, the taxi driver, stepped forward. She feeds half the night shift. You shutting down hunger now? Maya touched his arm before his anger could cost him something. Don't. She had learned that men with clipboards like turning someone else's temper into proof. At Langford Tower, Richard placed the field report neatly into a blue folder. Across from him, Adrian stood by the window. You filed a vendor complaint? Adrian asked. Our compliance team filed a safety notice after yesterday's disturbance. There was no safety issue. There is always a safety issue when an unverified person carries private founder materials and refuses legal review. Adrian turned. You're calling Maya Reyes a threat? I am saying grief makes you vulnerable to people who understand how to perform sincerity. Richard slid another folder across the desk. I asked for a background review. Adrian did not open it. Richard waited. Finally, Adrian took the folder. Inside were old rent filings, a small claims notice, a late utility record, and a hospital billing statement under Leo's name. Red circles marked the overdue amounts. A summary page described Maya as financially unstable, under municipal review, and potentially motivated by settlement pressure. Adrian closed the folder before reaching the last page. She has a sick child? She has debt, Richard said. Debt creates motive. That is not the same thing. No. But in court it will be made to look close enough. Adrian looked at him. For a second, the room felt colder. Why are we talking about court? Richard softened his voice. Because if this becomes public, she will not be the only one hurt. East Harbor residents will be given false hope. Investors will withdraw. Employees will panic. Your father's name will be dragged through another spectacle. Another. The word landed exactly where Richard aimed it. Adrian remembered being 20 and hearing private family pain become boardroom whispers. Richard had stood beside him then, explaining that Henry had become unreachable, that love sometimes required containment. Now the same hand seemed to be closing around the present. Before Adrian could answer, his phone buzzed. Claire. Don't react, she said. A local business blog just posted about Maya. Adrian opened the link. Street vendor claims dead billionaire left her secret letter. Below it was a blurry photo from the lobby entrance, cropped to show Maya holding the envelope while Adrian stood above her on the steps. The caption read, Sources suggest the vendor is seeking compensation related to the East Harbor redevelopment. Adrian's stomach tightened. Who leaked this? I checked the upload timestamp, Claire said. The pitch email went out before you asked me to verify the prescription. Adrian looked through the glass wall of Richard's office. Richard was calmly pouring tea. Claire continued. Whoever sent it knew the smear before we had an investigation. In East Harbor, Maya saw the article on Rosa's old computer. The comments were worse than the headline. Gold digger. Scammer. Of course she has a kid. These people always want a payout. Maya read the first few, then stepped back. Rosa reached for the mouse and closed the page. Don't drink poison just because someone labels it news. The bell above the shop door rang. A woman from the building next door entered, saw Maya, and looked away. I'm sorry, the woman said. I just need copies. That was how quickly shame traveled. Not in shouts, in small withdrawals. By afternoon, Leo's school called. A classmate had repeated something from his mother's phone. Leo had pushed him. No one was badly hurt, the principal said. But perhaps Maya should come in. Maya stood outside the school office while Leo sat on a bench, his face hard with the effort not to cry. They said you lied about Mr. Henry, he whispered. Maya knelt in front of him. I didn't. I know. That hurt more. Because the world had forced him to choose before he was old enough to understand what was being chosen. That evening, Adrian came to East Harbor without announcing himself. He found Maya behind Rosa's shop, wrapping plastic around the suspended cart as rain began to fall. She saw him and kept working. I didn't authorize the article, he said. No, you only built the machine that made it useful. He absorbed that. The permit suspension can be reviewed. Reviewed by the same people who taped it to my door? I can help. Maya tied the plastic tighter around the cart handle. Help would have been reading your father's letter when it was put in front of you. Adrian flinched. She finally looked at him. Your uncle is not trying to prove I'm lying. He's trying to make sure no one cares if I'm telling the truth. Adrian had no answer ready. Claire called again before he could speak. He put the phone on speaker. I found the source of the pitch email, she said. It came through a media consultant retained by Langford Legal. The billing code is Richard's. Maya watched Adrian's face. The anger came first. Then something more painful. Recognition. Richard had not merely reacted. He had prepared. Maya took the yellow suspension tag from the cart and held it up. This is attack number 1. Make me look illegal. Then she pulled the printed article from her pocket. This is attack number 2. Make me look greedy. Adrian stared at both papers. Maya's voice lowered. The third one will be worse. Rain tapped against the plastic covering the cart. For the first time, Adrian did not tell her she was exaggerating. He believed her. And that frightened him more than doubt ever had. Adrian did not invite Maya back to Langford Tower. This time, the address Claire sent was a private law office 2 blocks from the courthouse, in a building with no company logo on the door. The lobby smelled of polished wood and old contracts. No cameras pointed at the chairs. No investors waited behind glass. That made Maya trust it less. Adrian was already inside the conference room when she arrived. Claire stood near the window with a closed folder in her hands. On the table sat a bottle of water, a legal pad, and a document clipped neatly at the corner. Maya did not sit. Adrian looked at the empty chair, then back at her. I asked you here because things are moving too fast, he said. They started moving fast when your uncle put my name on a public notice. I know. Knowing is not the same as stopping it. That landed. Claire lowered her eyes. Adrian opened the folder. I can get the suspension lifted by tomorrow. Your cart can return to its corner. The old fines will disappear. Leo's school expenses can be covered through a private education fund, no publicity attached. Maya listened without blinking. He continued, more carefully now. And while we verify the annex, we need to keep this contained. If Richard thinks we are moving against him, he will destroy whatever is left. Contained, Maya repeated. For now. He slid the document across the table. Maya looked down. Non-disclosure and temporary cooperation agreement. She did not touch it. Adrian spoke before she could. It is not a payoff. It has my name on it and silence inside it. It protects you. No, it protects the company from me. His jaw tightened. Claire took a small step forward. Maya, the language can be revised. Maya looked at her, not unkindly. Can it be revised enough to let me tell people why their homes are being taken? No one answered. Adrian exhaled. You do not understand the scale of this. Langford Group has thousands of employees. Pension funds are tied to our stock. Construction loans, city contracts, investor covenants. If this explodes before we know what we can prove, Richard will not be the only one damaged. Maya sat then, slowly. Not because he had convinced her. Because she wanted him to see her face when she answered. You keep saying damaged like damage begins when rich people lose money. Adrian looked away. Maya leaned forward. Mrs. Alvarez already packed her wedding dishes because she thinks she has 30 days. Rosa is afraid to order new paper for her shop. Calvin sleeps in his cab because if he misses 2 nights of work, he can't pay the increased rent. Your project has been exploding in our lives for months. It only became dangerous when the pieces pointed back to your family. Adrian's voice hardened. That is not fair. No, Maya said. It isn't. The quiet after that was sharp. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city moved beyond the window. Buses, horns, courthouse steps, people crossing streets without knowing that a neighborhood could be erased by a phrase like pending consolidation. Adrian touched the edge of the agreement. My father's letter could help us understand what happened. Then read it. I need the original secured. With Richard's legal network, with independent counsel, chosen by you. Paid by me? Yes, because I have the resources to protect chain of custody. Maya almost laughed. Henry gave me that letter because resources had already failed him. Adrian flinched as if she had struck something deeper than pride. You think I don't know that? He said. I think you are starting to know it. That is not the same as choosing it. His hand closed around the pen. For the first time since she had met him, Adrian looked less like a CEO and more like a man trying not to fall through the floor of his own life. If that letter says what you think it says, he said quietly, then I spent years believing my father left me when someone may have kept him away. Maya's anger softened, but only a little. Then don't answer that pain by doing the same thing to his truth. Claire's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and went pale. What? Adrian asked. She hesitated. Richard's office wants confirmation that Maya arrived here. Maya turned. How would he know I was here? Claire looked at the ceiling corner. The room had no visible camera. Adrian stood and walked to the door. He opened it. In the hallway, a junior associate looked up too quickly from his phone. Adrian's voice dropped. Leave. The young man disappeared toward the elevators. When Adrian returned, the damage was already done. Maya picked up the NDA, folded it once, and placed it back in front of him. I am not signing this. Maya, I will not take school money for Leo in exchange for teaching him. His mother stayed quiet. It was never meant that way, but it would become that. Adrian had no answer. She stood. Henry did not ask me to protect your stock price. He asked me to find his son. You did. No, Maya said. I found the man his son became. I am still waiting to see if Henry's son is in there. Claire closed her eyes briefly. Adrian remained still. Maya walked to the door, then stopped. I will let an independent examiner look at the envelope, she said, but not one chosen by Langford, not one paid through your uncle, and I will be there. Adrian nodded once. It was not victory. It was only the smallest possible bridge. Maya left without shaking his hand. In the hallway, near the elevator, she saw the junior associate again. He turned away, but not before she noticed his phone screen. A voice recording app was open. The red line was still moving. By the time Adrian stepped into the hall, the associate had vanished. Maya did not chase him. She only looked back at Adrian. Now he has what he wanted, she said. Adrian's face darkened. A recording of what? Enough pieces to make me sound like whatever Richard needs next. The elevator doors opened. Maya stepped inside. This time, Adrian did not try to stop her. He only stood there as the doors closed between them, understanding too late that Richard had not needed Maya to sign the silence. He only needed her anger, recorded without the reasons around it. The recording reached Adrian before breakfast. 37 seconds. Not the meeting, not the argument, not the NDA on the table, or the way Maya had refused school money because she did not want Leo learning that silence could be purchased. Only the sharpest pieces. Maya's voice. Your project has been exploding in our lives for months. Adrian's voice. I can help. Maya again. Help would have been reading your father's letter when it was put in front of you. A cut. Adrian. Leo's school expenses can be covered. Another cut. Maya. Henry did not ask me to protect your stock price. Then silence. By noon, the board had the clip. By 1, Richard had called an emergency legal review. By 2, Adrian stood in a conference room staring at a packet titled, Potential Extortion Risk, Maya Reyes Matter. This is edited, Adrian said. One director folded his hands. Edited or not, it creates exposure. Richard sat at the end of the table, calm as ever. That is why we need to control the facts before the story hardens. Claire stood near the wall. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. The associate who recorded it resigned this morning. His account was wiped. Richard gave a quiet sigh. Convenient. Claire looked at him. Very. An outside attorney slid another page across the table. We also received this from Mr. Langford's legal storage. Adrian looked down. It was a scanned letter, supposedly from Henry, dated 2 weeks before his death. The handwriting was close, painfully close. In it, Henry described the woman at the soup cart as persistent about money. The final line said he feared she might use his name after he died. Adrian read the line twice. Richard spoke gently. I did not want you to see this unless necessary. Your father became suspicious near the end. Where is the original? Claire asked. Family legal storage. Which room? Richard's eyes moved to her. That is being confirmed. The answer was too smooth. Adrian knew it, but the handwriting still hurt. In East Harbor, Claire brought the news to Rosa's shop herself. Maya was behind the counter, sorting paper bowls because the cart remained suspended. They have a letter, Claire said. What letter? One that says Henry was afraid of you. Maya's hands stopped. Rosa cursed under her breath. That's a lie, Maya said. I know. Does Adrian? Claire was silent for half a second too long. Maya understood. She reached inside her coat and pulled out Henry's sealed envelope. For 1 year, she had kept it closed because it was not addressed to her. She had carried it through rain, fear, hunger, and humiliation without breaking the wax. Now Richard was putting words in Henry's mouth. Maya placed the envelope on Rosa's counter. I kept this sealed out of respect, she said. But if they are using a dead man's voice, then we need the real one. Rosa locked the front door. Claire opened her phone camera. Maya broke the old wax seal. Inside were 3 items: a letter addressed to Adrian, a page of parcel notes, and a small folded scrap stained at the corner. Claire photographed each one before anyone touched them again. Maya opened the letter. Henry's handwriting was weak, but clear. Adrian, if this reaches you, it means I failed to reach you myself. I did not leave you. I was kept from you by men who understood that a son's anger is easier to manage than a father's warning. Maya stopped reading. The room held its breath. She continued. Richard altered more than files. He altered the story between us. East Harbor is not a blighted zone. It is protected land under the original community trust. The annex was removed. The people there were meant to have consent rights. The final paragraph was shorter. The woman who carries this letter fed me before she knew my name. Do not insult her kindness by asking what it cost. Maya pressed one hand against the counter. She had expected Henry to speak to Adrian. She had not expected him to defend her. The folded scrap held something stranger. Maya's soup recipe in Henry's failing hand. Ginger, garlic, chicken bones, black pepper, extra lentils when the rain is heavy. Below it, he had written one sentence. She feeds people before she asks who they are. In the corner was a date. The same date as Rosa's print shop receipt. Claire took another photo. This connects the letter to the night he copied the annex. Then we take it to Adrian, Maya said. The bell above the door rang. A woman in a rain hood stepped inside, face hidden. Sorry, she said. Are you open? Rosa moved toward her. No. The woman backed into a paper rack. Folders spilled across the floor. Maya turned by instinct, only for a second. When she looked back, the envelope was gone. The woman ran. Maya chased her into the rain, but the woman was already climbing into a gray car at the curb. No visible plate, no hesitation. The car pulled away before Maya reached the street. She stopped, breathing hard. Behind her, Claire held up her phone. I have the photos. Maya looked at her, but not the original. Claire did not answer. She did not need to. Originals mattered. Chain of custody mattered. Richard had taught them that. Maya's phone buzzed. A message from Adrian. I need to hear the truth from you. Not Claire. Not Richard. You. Before she could answer, another message arrived from an unknown number. Without the letter, you are only a woman with a story. Maya stared at the screen until the words blurred. For a year, she had protected Henry's last voice. The moment she opened it, someone stole it. Rosa touched her shoulder. What now? Maya looked toward the rain-dark street. They wanted the letter because they thought it was all we had, she said. Claire lowered the phone. Maya turned back to the shop. Henry knew they would come for the obvious proof, so we stopped chasing what they stole. She wiped the rain from her face. We find what he hid next. Richard's third attack arrived in 3 envelopes. The first was a legal notice delivered to Rosa's print and copy before opening hour. Maya Reyes was accused of defamation, attempted extortion, and unlawful possession of private Langford family property. The second envelope went to the city office. It requested emergency approval to begin safety abatement on the East Harbor parcels within 72 hours. The third went to Adrian. It was not a letter. It was a board resolution. Either Adrian publicly disavowed Maya Reyes and authorized Langford Legal to proceed against her, or the board would call a confidence vote by Friday. Claire read the resolution twice in Adrian's office. "They're forcing your hand," she said. Adrian stood by the window, the city flattened beneath him. "No," he said. "Richard is forcing theirs." On his desk lay the scanned fake letter, Maya's photographs of the real one, and the copier log from Rosa's shop. Enough to create suspicion, not enough to survive a courtroom where originals had vanished and chain of custody could be poisoned. Claire's phone buzzed. "It's Maya." Adrian reached for it, but Claire shook her head. "She's not calling you." Across town, Maya was not waiting for Adrian, or the board, or any lawyer who needed permission to be brave. She was at her kitchen table with Rosa, Claire on speaker, and Leo beside the dented metal tin. "They took the envelope because they thought everything ended there," Maya said. "Henry knew people like Richard. He wouldn't leave only one trail." Leo held the brown button between his fingers. "Mr. Henry said this was important." Maya almost told him it was only a memory. Then she stopped. Henry had hidden the annex copy in a soup tin. He had written clues on receipts. He had trusted. "Where is his coat?" Leo asked. Maya looked up. After Henry died, she had washed the old coat and folded it into a plastic storage bag under her bed. She had kept it because throwing it away felt too close to erasing him. Now she pulled it out. The fabric smelled faintly of rain no matter how long it had been stored. One cuff was missing the button Leo kept. The stitch marks were uneven, as if Henry had opened the seam and closed it again with failing hands. Rosa brought scissors. Maya cut carefully along the cuff lining. A narrow strip of paper slipped out, no bigger than a bus ticket. On it, Henry had written, "EH17, Clerk Room B, Blue Ledger, R.L." Signed out original. Claire went silent over the phone. Then she said, "City Archive, not Langford Storage." Maya grabbed her coat. Rosa caught her arm. "They're suing you. They're also tearing down the neighborhood in 3 days." Leo stood. "I'm coming." "No. You didn't find the paper." "I did." Maya wanted to refuse. Then she saw Henry in that sentence, the old man who made children feel like their attention mattered. "All right," she said, "but you stay beside me." City Records sat behind the courthouse in a building that looked as if it had been designed to discourage hope. Gray walls, narrow windows, a metal detector that groaned at every belt buckle. At the archive desk, an older clerk named Mr. Bell listened while Maya explained EH17, Clerk Room B, and the Blue Ledger. When she finished, he removed his glasses. "That file is sealed." "By who?" Maya asked. "Langford Legal." Claire's voice came through Maya's phone. "Ask for the physical sign-out ledger. Sealing a file does not erase the access record." Mr. Bell looked at the phone, then at Maya. "You have counsel?" "No," Maya said. "I have a witness." Something in that answer seemed to reach him. He disappeared through a locked door. They waited 17 minutes. Rosa counted them aloud under her breath. When Mr. Bell returned, he carried a blue cloth ledger with cracked corners. He opened it to a page marked EH17. There were 3 entries. Henry Langford had requested the file 4 months before his death. Richard Langford had signed out the original 2 days later. The return column beside Richard's name was blank. Maya stared at the empty space. "That means he never returned it," Rosa said. Mr. Bell touched the page. "It means the official archive has no record of return. Can you certify that?" His face tightened. "Not without a supervisor." A door opened behind him. A younger woman in a city badge stepped out, phone in hand. "Mr. Bell," Legal just called. "No copies, no certifications, direct order." Maya turned toward the exit. Outside, through the glass doors, a gray car was parked across the street. The same dull color, the same patience. Richard's net was already around them. Claire spoke quickly through the phone. Maya, listen. Rosa's receipt log. Old receipt printers used carbon rolls. If Henry printed a copy request and Richard signed out the original later, there may be a second timestamp trail. Rosa's eyes widened. The carbon roll. What carbon roll? Maya asked. Rosa was already moving. My old register. I never throw anything away. They left city records without the certified copy, but not empty-handed. Leo had taken a photo of the ledger page, while Mr. Bell was looking at the supervisor. Maya saw it only when they reached the sidewalk. Leo. He lifted his chin. You said stay beside you. I did. Maya should have scolded him. Instead, she kissed the top of his head and kept walking. At Rosa's shop, the old register sat under a plastic cover in the back room. Rosa opened the side compartment and pulled out a dark paper roll wrapped in rubber bands. Carbon keeps ghosts, she said. They unrolled it across the counter. Faint, gray impressions appeared. Dates, amounts, service codes. Most were useless. Some were barely visible. Then Claire, now in person and out of breath, pointed to one line. 9:42 p.m. Legal copy. EH 17, Annex B. Blue stock. Paid cash. 2 lines later. Customer note. Duplicate concealed per HL request. Maya's throat tightened. Henry had known. He had known the obvious proof would be taken. Claire photographed the roll, then froze. This isn't enough alone, she said. But together with Leo's photo of the ledger, the fake letter, the paper hidden in the cuff, and the scanned real letter, it becomes a pattern, Maya said. Adrian called then. This time, Maya answered. His voice came low and urgent. Richard moved the board meeting to tonight, public hearing tomorrow morning. They want to approve demolition before we can file anything. Maya looked at the carbon roll stretched across Rosa's counter. Then we don't file first, she said. What are you saying? I'm saying your father left enough for a courtroom later. But tomorrow, we need a room full of people to see what Richard tried to hide. Adrian was silent. Maya heard the old hesitation in him, the company, the board, the fear, the years of Richard's voice inside his head. So she made the choice plain. If you still want to manage this, stay in your tower, she said. If you want the truth, open the doors tomorrow. The line stayed quiet for one more breath. Then Adrian said, bring everything. Maya looked at Leo, Rosa, Claire, and the thin carbon ghost of Henry's last fight. We will, she said. Outside, rain began tapping on the shop window. Not hard, just enough to sound like someone knocking. By 9 the next morning, the lobby of Langford Tower no longer looked like a lobby. Rows of chairs faced the shining model of East Harbor Renewal. Reporters stood near the marble columns. City officials took seats beside board members. Behind them, residents from East Harbor gathered in work jackets, pharmacy uniforms, taxi caps, and raincoats still damp at the shoulders. The model sat under white light, perfect and silent. Maya stood at the back with Rosa, Leo, and Claire. In Rosa's canvas bag were the carbon roll, the receipt duplicate, the cuff strip, and printed photographs of the real letter. Leo held the brown button in his fist. Adrian had promised to open the doors. Now Maya needed to see whether he would keep them open when Richard tried to close them. Richard walked to the front first. He looked composed, almost sorrowful. Thank you all for attending on short notice, he said. Langford Group has been the target of a coordinated attempt to delay a lawful redevelopment project through forged materials and emotional manipulation. Murmurs moved through the residence. Richard raised one hand gently. We will not attack a struggling mother, but we must protect the company, the city process, and the memory of Henry Langford. Maya felt Leo stiffen beside her. Then Richard placed the scanned fake letter on the projector. Henry's copied handwriting filled the screen. The woman at the soup cart has become persistent about money. A reporter lifted her camera. Richard continued. This letter was located in family legal storage. It demonstrates that Henry himself feared exploitation. Adrian stood near the front row, still as stone. One board member leaned toward him. Say something. Adrian did. Let her speak. Richard turned. I'm sorry? Adrian walked to the front and faced the room. If you are going to accuse Maya Reyes publicly, she answers, publicly. Richard's expression did not break, but the hand holding the remote tightened. Adrian, this is not wise. No, Adrian said. It is late. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Maya stepped forward. A guard shifted to block her path. Adrian looked at him once. Let her through. The guard stepped aside. It was the first time Langford Tower had opened for Maya without pulling something away from her. She walked past the chairs and stopped beside the model. Up close, the little silver buildings looked even colder. Her neighborhood had been reduced to clean angles and removable blocks. Maya did not look at the reporters. She opened Rosa's canvas bag. I am not here to ask anyone to believe me because I am poor, she said, and I am not here to ask anyone to distrust him because he is rich. She placed the first item on the table, a printed photograph of Henry's real letter. I am here because Henry Langford left a trail. Richard smiled faintly. A photograph of a stolen letter is not evidence. No, Maya said. It is a direction. She placed the cuff strip beside it. Henry hid this in the lining of his coat. Claire moved to the projector and enlarged the writing. E. H. 17, Clerk Room B, Blue Ledger, R. L. Signed out original. A city official leaned forward. Maya placed Leo's photo of the ledger next. This is the city archive sign-out ledger for EH17. Henry requested the file. 2 days later, Richard Langford signed out the original. The return column is blank. Richard gave a patient sigh. A child's phone picture of an archive page is not certification. Mr. Bell, the older records clerk, stood from the third row. No, he said, voice shaking, but I can certify that the ledger exists. A city supervisor rose behind him. Mr. Bell, you are not authorized. He pulled a folded paper from his jacket. I retired this morning. You cannot fire me twice. The room changed. Mr. Bell walked forward and handed Adrian a stamped statement. E17 was never recorded as returned after Richard Langford signed it out. Richard's face lost a little color. Maya placed the carbon roll on the table. Rosa stepped beside her and unrolled the dark strip under the document camera. Old registers keep impressions, Rosa said. This is from my shop. The screen showed faint gray text. 9:42 p.m. Legal copy, EH17 Annex B, blue stock, paid cash. 2 lines lower. Customer note. Duplicate concealed per HL request. Claire added the receipt duplicate, matching the same date and time. Henry copied the annex at Rosa's shop, Claire said. That matches the receipt Maya kept, and the recipe page photographed from the real letter. Richard recovered quickly. None of this proves the content of the alleged annex. Adrian took the copy from Maya's folder and placed it on the table himself. No forced displacement shall occur, he read, on residential or small business parcels transferred under the original Langford Community Trust without a supermajority community consent record. A sound moved through East Harbor's residents, not cheering. Not yet, but air returning to people who had been holding it too long. Richard pointed toward the screen. A convenient copy found in a soup tin. Because my father knew your office would search safes, Adrian said. Richard's eyes narrowed. At last, the kindness left his face. You are letting grief humiliate this family. Adrian looked at him. No. I let grief blind me to what you were doing. Richard reached for the fake letter again. This is Henry's own warning. He feared her. Maya looked at Claire. Claire nodded and changed the display. Side by side, the fake letter and a blank Langford legal memo appeared on the screen. The fake letter has a paper watermark, Claire said. It belongs to a batch ordered by Langford Legal 8 months ago. She clicked again. A purchase record appeared. Henry Langford died a year before that batch existed. The room went completely silent. Richard did not move. Claire continued. The scan metadata also shows the file was created yesterday from a device registered to Richard Langford's legal suite. A reporter whispered, "Get that." Cameras lifted. Richard looked at Adrian. You would destroy your father's company over a street vendor? Maya felt the old insult in the words. This time, Adrian answered before she could. She was the last person in this family who treated my father like a man instead of a problem. Richard's mouth opened, but no sound came. Adrian turned to the room. My father did not abandon me, he said. I was taught to believe he did because it made me easier to control. And East Harbor was not empty land waiting to be improved. It was a community protected by agreements this company buried. He stopped himself there, as if remembering that truth did not need decoration. Then he picked up the demolition authorization on the table and tore it in half. The sound was small. The effect was not. The East Harbor renewal approval is suspended, Adrian said. Effective now. An independent audit begins today. All legal action against Maya Reyes stops today. Richard Langford is removed from every active matter pending investigation. Richard stepped back as two security officers approached. For 1 second, he looked at Maya with pure hatred. Maya held his gaze. She did not smile. She only placed Henry's brown button beside the model of East Harbor, right where her cart corner would have been. Leo whispered, "That's where he sat." Adrian heard him. He looked at the button, then at the model, then at Maya. In front of the board, the press, the city, and the people he had almost erased, Adrian lowered his head. "I am sorry," he said. Maya did not answer immediately. An apology was not a repaired wheel. It was not a restored permit. It was not a home saved by itself. But it was the first honest sentence Langford Tower had given her. Behind her, Rosa placed a paper bowl of soup on the edge of the model. Not as a joke, as evidence of what had always been missing, something human. And for the first time since Henry died, Maya felt his promise begin to close. 3 weeks later, Maya returned to Langford Tower through the front doors. No guard blocked her. No one reached for her coat. The lobby still smelled of marble polish and expensive flowers, but something had changed near the entrance. The model of East Harbor renewal was gone. In its place stood a temporary public notice board covered with maps, audit updates, and a single printed statement signed by Adrian Langford. All displacement actions connected to East Harbor are suspended pending independent review. All legal claims against Maya Reyes are withdrawn. The previous allegations against her are formally retracted. Maya read it twice. Not because she needed the words explained, because she needed to see them stay there. Adrian stood beside the board, not in front of it. That mattered. He was not using the apology as a stage. Claire handed Maya a folder. Inside were 3 documents: her vendor license restored, the city suspension removed, and a written correction sent to every outlet that had repeated Richard's claims. "No settlement agreement," Claire said. "No confidentiality clause." Maya looked at Adrian. He understood the question before she asked. "You owe us nothing," he said. "We owe you the truth on record." For a moment, Maya thought of Henry standing in the rain, counting coins into a handkerchief, still insisting on paying for soup he could barely lift. "He would have liked that," she said. Adrian's face tightened, but he did not hide from the pain. "I hope so." Richard's name was not spoken. It appeared only once, in the audit notice, under matters referred to outside investigators. That was enough. Maya did not need to watch him fall again. She had already seen the lie break. Outside, near the curb where her soup had spilled weeks earlier, a small crowd had gathered. Rosa was there. Calvin, too. Mrs. Alvarez had brought a folding chair, claiming her knees were bad, though everyone knew she simply wanted the best view. Maya's cart stood at the edge of the sidewalk. Repaired. Cleaned. The loose wheel replaced. The dented pot, however, remained. Maya had refused to change it. Some scars were not damage. Some were records. Adrian walked toward the cart carrying the large soup pot with both hands. He held it awkwardly, like a man more used to signing documents than lifting anything hot. Leo watched him with open suspicion. "You'll spill it," the boy said. Adrian stopped. "I probably will." Maya almost smiled. Together, they set the pot in place. Then Leo stepped forward with the brown button Henry had left behind. Rosa had sewn it onto a narrow strip of dark cloth. Leo tied the cloth to the inside rail of the cart, where it would not be touched by rain. Adrian looked at it. "That was his?" Leo nodded. He said buttons are for keeping things closed. Maya gently corrected him. "For keeping promises closed." Leo frowned. "That's what I meant." Adrian looked away for a second. When he turned back, Maya handed him a paper bowl of soup, the same kind Henry had held on his last night. Adrian took it with both hands. Around them, office workers slowed. Reporters lifted cameras, but Claire held up one hand and kept them at a distance. This was not for a headline. Not yet. Adrian tasted the soup. Rain began to fall lightly, touching the sidewalk in dark spots. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, in a voice only Maya and Leo could hear, he said, "So this is what he had when I thought he had nothing." Maya watched the steam rise between them. "No," she said. "This is what he had when your family stopped looking." Adrian accepted the difference. Above the serving window, a new sign had been painted by Rosa's nephew. Henry's Friday bowl, free soup for anyone who needs one. The first free bowl went to an old man from the bus depot who tried to pay anyway. Maya pushed his coins back. "Keep one for tomorrow," she said. He did not know why Adrian closed his eyes when she said it. Months passed before East Harbor learned what saving a neighborhood really meant. It was not one speech, not one meeting, not one rich man tearing a paper in half. It was slower. A trust review, a new consent vote, rent protections written in language residents could understand, a legal clinic inside Rosa's print shop every Thursday evening, a repaired back entrance for the shelter kitchen, vendor permits translated into 3 languages and posted where people could actually read them. Some buildings still changed. Not every loss was undone, but no one was removed by a document they could not see, or a clause someone had buried. Maya kept selling soup, not because she had no other offer. Adrian had offered her a paid advisory position on the East Harbor Review Board. She accepted that too, but only part-time. "I already have a job," she told him. So every Friday evening, when the tower lights came on and buses sighed at the curb, Henry's Friday bowl opened beside the sidewalk. Workers came. Taxi drivers came. Old women came with grocery bags. Sometimes Adrian came too, without security, standing in line like everyone else. He never moved to the front. Leo made sure of that. One rainy night, near closing, a stranger in a soaked coat stopped under the awning. He looked embarrassed by his own hunger. Maya filled a bowl before he asked. Leo watched from beside the cart. "Mom," he whispered, "do you know who he is?" Maya handed the man a spoon. "No," she said. "That comes later." The stranger sat on the wooden crate behind the cart, steam rising into the rain. Across the street, Langford Tower shone against the dark sky. But below it, smaller and warmer, Maya's cart glowed too. This time, no one called it a stain. This time, it looked like a promise kept.